Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. I'm Russ Evans along with Shannon Nordstrom. You can reach us at 866-594-4150. We'd love to talk to you today on this frozen, cold, wintry weather day.
I just got a couple texts from people in the break. They said, you should clean the snow off the window now that we got the YouTube feed going and you can't see anything.
Yeah, you got to love technology. You know, I wish I could just go walk in and have it amazingly.
Put a wiper on it.
You know, everything working. But I came in and I hit the button for YouTube to go live. And, of course, the radio's working like it should and podcasts and all that. But people are, well, we know they're watching because there's a, where's your feed? It's not working. I'm like, I'm looking right at it. It's right on the screen. It's live. It's working. Oh, wait a second. Oh, I pushed the button, and I was too quick.
Fast draw, Russ.
I said, well, it's not working. Let me hit it again. So it came up about 3 seconds later, and then, of course, 3 seconds later after that, it shut back off again. So you got about 3 seconds of the show, and then nothing, and then now back to us.
Hey, when we were talking about headlights just a little bit ago, show contributor Rodney was stopped in my office the other day, and he had made a drive down on one of our slushy, snowy days, and he asked a question that I had not thought of. He said, he goes, Russ isn't a fan of this anyway, but he's done the LED bulb replacement in his Prius.
It's against the law.
Yeah, but he doesn't burn out
unless
headlights.
Unless you have, no, you know what? He has, he's got projector beams in that car, so that's legal.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
You're okay, Rodney.
That wasn't his question. His question was, his headlights don't heat up enough to get the snow and ice to fall off them like they used to, because the LEDs don't put off enough heat. And I had never really thought of that before, because there is a certain amount of temperature generated from the traditional bulbs.
A lot, yeah.
Compared to the LED bulbs.
My truck has got LEDs and HIDs, depending on which position we're talking about, but they won't melt the snow. I got to clean them off.
Yeah, and that's just a change that it kind of hit his radar that morning, just because of the way the weather was and the way it was coming, and the snow and ice coming down, and he's like, I never really dealt with that before. So it's just a new thing that we got to deal with. And here again, we're up in this northern belt, and there's people listening to this show like, quit talking about snow.
Oh, they're getting the snow down, you know, Las Vegas, Texas. You remember last year, we did have a friend down in Houston that said, oh, you know, it's snowing up there, but I'm glad I don't live there anymore. And then they got like 14 inches of snow, and it melted quickly, but it wreaked havoc on everything for a while. Maybe they were getting snow in northern Florida.
Snow and freezing and broke everything. The listeners have called in here in the break for the show, and somebody from out of this area has got their husband stranded out in western South Dakota right now, and asking if we could do anything to help. And the answer is we'd love to help everybody, but no.
I think the road's even closed.
They got interstates closed. It sounds like they've been stranded out on the road for about 5 days out there, and there's a lot of people that in this weather, when it comes up, if the traffic gets stopped, you can't get to a truck stop, and they close the interstates, and they don't go out looking for people.
If they close them, they will close the gate, and then they will proceed on and make sure everybody's out of there.
Yep.
So that's their excuse for if you get caught in there after, you're in trouble. You're going to pay for the removal.
We get out near the higher elevations on the western part of our state, they're getting 2 to 3 feet of snow out of the storm. And then, of course,
Shannon smiles as he says that. He's like, "Oh, the snowmobile's warming up."
Snowmobiles, right? Yeah, we're okay with that for snowmobiling, but that's about the only thing it's good for.
Well, let's take a call from John in North Dakota with a 2004 Cavalier. How you doing, John?
Hey, pretty good.
Are you buried in snow in North Dakota where you're at?
Yeah, I think we got about 13 inches, but the wind just blows out here, so it's really cool. Yep.
So what's going on with the Cavalier?
Well, it uses oil. You know, if I'm just, I go 30 miles to work and back every day. If I just do that, I probably go through a quarter every 200 miles.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I go up to Grand Forks to visit my daughter up at UND. That's 400 miles. I use half a quart. So I use a quart, about 800 if I'm on the highway. The oil gets dirty really fast. You know, so I mean, after 400 miles, it's starting to look dirty. And somebody was telling me that I mean, I got no leak. I'm not shooting out black smoke. Someone was telling me that it could have something to do with the PVC valve, the PCV valve.
Right.
That is not exactly a valve. I think it's just there's a plastic cover on the top of that 2.2 Ecotech engine.
Right.
And if you take that off, there's some type of a breather there. But
Yeah.
you guys have any ideas what that could be? And the other thing is it idles rough,
Ooh.
but you seem to lose the mist. I mean, it's not super rough; it's just a mist. But my mechanic says when you get the RPMs up, the mist goes away.
Okay. Well, if you've got an issue with the valve cover causing an oil burning issue on a car with PCV system,
That's what you hope it is.
Yeah, it's common to many vehicles. Anytime we put in a remanufactured engine, and even a lot of used engines, we replace that valve cover that's got the PCV valve in it, because what happens is they start to gum up in there with age, and the design of it allows oil to be drawn into the engine and burn it, and it will consume oil. Now, the Cavaliers weren't really bad about oil usage, so it could be the valve cover causing that issue. I'm looking at Chris Carter right now, standing out in the production booth. I'm like, get in here, grab that microphone. All right, fine. You just take a break there, buddy.
He just had a stressful drive. He's decompressing right now.
Probably, yeah. He's like, I'm just watching.
I'll wait till the bottom of the hour.
So try that first. I want you to pull that tube off that goes to that valve cover.
Yeah.
On the end that's closest to the throttle body, pull it off. See if it's got oil in it. If it's got oil in it, well, we've got one of two problems. Either that valve cover's clogging up, or with the engine running, if that thing has got an oil mist coming out of it, you've got a bigger problem. You've got some rings inside of that engine that are worn out, and it's got too much blow-by. And then you just drive it, keep adding oil to it, because that's going to be
your catalytic converter is burning.
Suffering.
It's burning the oil mist or out of the air, so you're not seeing it out the tailpipe. But eventually, that will kill the catalytic converter if you do that for ever and ever.
Death by oil.
And so, you just got to be aware of that. But that's the quick check you need to do to see if it truly is that. And if it's not that, yeah, there's some sort of an internal problem that's burning that oil. And then you're going to want to do like a leak down test on each cylinder if you want to go that far to find out, all right, I'm blowing pressure by the rings and into the crankcase at a high rate in cylinder number 3 or whatever it might happen to be. You could pull the spark plugs, and you could look at the spark plugs like you would do on an old 2-stroke motorcycle and read the plug. Look and see if it's got a really dark...
And if one of them's worse than the other, it's definitely
that
something
cylinder
rings in
could
it.
be burning oil.
Yep.
Those are some things you can do without spending a lot of money to kind of check out how bad the problem is.
Okay.
All right. That help you out, John?
Yep, that's help.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Stay warm.
Take care.
All right.
Chris is over there dancing to the theme song. That means we got to take a break. Under the Hood, we'll be right back. We want your phone calls at 866-594-4150. And we'll see you back on Under the Hood in just a minute.
Sioux Falls, FM 107.9, KELQ.
Keep it between the snowbanks.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. We're glad to have you with us. 866-594-4150. If you follow us on Facebook, if you like the Facebook page and you join the Hoodie fan club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Sherry Ardens. Congratulations from all of us here at Under the Hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute, UTI.edu. We had a listener last week that said they were a graduate of UTI. That was pretty cool, and I've had a few people email me as well saying that they had been to UTI and now they're in other automotive trades, or they went to an automotive trade and then moved on to a different trade that they got the experience from going to UTI, and they've got campuses all over. And right now, almost all their campuses are mighty cold, and they will be over the next week. But that one down in Orlando, it's not too bad.
Might be a titch above on the temperature today.
Yeah, just a little bit better than what we're doing. But check them out, uti.edu.
866-594-4150. I made it, you guys. I'm here. So I know you guys know it. You see me. I'm in the studio. I just wanted to jump in and address it.
We had somebody call into the studio here, and we didn't talk on the air, but they talked to producer Doug, and one of their family members, I think their husband, is stuck out by Woods, South Dakota, on the road. Been there for multiple days. They got feet of snow out that way, and crazy.
It'll be curious to see what we get. The roads were slow. That's all. It was okay going. It just was
Just
slow.
this wind coming up though is the thing everybody's worried about.
They're just slippery. It's not
slippery,
deep,
and
it's
you're
just-
right. When I got closer to here, it was pretty.
Well, I went on a little hunting trip here about 2 weeks ago, out by Mitchell, Parkston. I met my friends from Michigan, and we went pheasant hunting. And the day we were going to go, the weather had said, and the one guy that was with us, he'd sent the weather thing to everybody. He goes, "Here's the forecast, just so you know." It was really nice out. We got up in the morning, let the dogs out, did everything. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful fall winter day. But the forecast was at 10 o'clock the wind was going to come up and the temperature was going to drop. We're kind of getting in the trucks. We're getting motivated to go out to the farmer that hosts them. And wouldn't you know it, whoom, the wind came up, and the temperature dropped, and by the time we got out in the field, it was 40-mile-an-hour winds, and the temperature had dropped to 15 degrees or 17 degrees or whatever it was over a period of like an hour. And so they're talking the same thing today as far as that wind coming. They said at 10 o'clock the wind's going to come up, so I'm going to be looking outside at 10 o'clock Central and
See what happens.
There's a difference between the in-town and out-of-town. Because I remember we left the radio show in Sioux
Russ.
Falls a few years ago.
That's been how long ago has that been?
Like 7 years maybe.
It's been a while
but
ago.
I was headed out of town, and I get to an intersection, which is not even out of town, just on a very wide open intersection. When I got there, I went, nope. And somebody was coming at me in my turn lane across a boulevard because they couldn't see. So I called Shannon and said, "Hey, you might want to rethink, leaving town. You can't see it all over here, and I haven't even got out of town." "Oh, really?" "Oh, I don't think it's that bad. It's perfect where I'm at in town." Yeah, it was. Sure enough, he got there, and he's like, I barely made it back to Garrettson. It was rough. That wind picks up, and no matter where you're at, it's
And we got a lot of loose snow laying around right now.
More to come.
Yeah.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Iowa and talk to Mark. Mark, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I have a 1954 Chevrolet pickup. I'm looking for wheels for it. I need a 15-inch wheel with a 6-bolt wheel.
Yeah, and you know what? And does it have a very large center arbor, the center of the wheel?
Not real large, no.
Because one thing that the internet, well, there's a lot of good things the internet has done, but one good thing the internet has done for the wheel and tire industry is there are so many converters and cross-references and websites that are specific to wheel offset or backspacing. They'll give you all that information. And you can find that stuff so much easier than it used to be. Now, getting back into the classics, not all that data correlates, but your 54 Chevy is a very popular item. And that 6-lug wheel that's on there is, I believe that's a 6-lug, isn't it?
I think it was LMC Truck that I saw one time going through stuff. I know they sold these like a chromed factory wheel that you could buy with a moon hubcap. And so they sold those, and then I believe that at one time, this is 10, 15 years ago, but they sold an adapter that you could bolt on there. Then you could put any 5-lug wheel over
Something
the
that was
front
more
of it.
readily available.
Uh-huh.
But there's a lot
Otherwise,
of
you
these
get the
wheel
chrome.
manufacturers. It seems like they can spin up wheels so much faster with all the technology and
Type it into their CNC machine.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think that you're going to find, if you're not one yourself, to go be doing a lot of Google searching, find somebody that can help, and it is a wealth of information. But that bolt pattern itself, though, is the same 6-lug pattern that they've used for a lot of years. They used it, clear up until they went to the 5s, and then they went back to the 6s. But then you got to watch your offsets, your positive offsets on these newer trucks versus the negative offsets that the older ones
Don't hit the
had.
fender, don't hit the tie rods.
Yeah, that's upper control arms whacking onto it because you got wheels setting in too far and those sort of things. But I think that you're going to be able to find quite a few wheels, and even if you had to go to a 16-inch wheel with less sidewall to get your height that you want, I mean, there's just so many options. Russ just is over there, and he's got a thought. I'm looking at him, and
I'm just wondering what I had on my 55 Chevy pickup. I had a stock front axle under it, and it was, I remember I had 6 bolts on the front, and I had 5 bolts on the rear because the rear end was changed in it. I'm just trying to think there was some kind of a bolt-on adapter on that.
What have you been finding as far as you obviously have a challenge with this? As you've asked around and looked around, have you found problems, or is it just something you haven't really dug into yet and thought, hey, we're going to call these guys, and I appreciate that.
Anything that's 15-inch is usually a 5-bolt. And I'm not real crazy about that. See, originally, this truck had 16-inch wheels. My dad went and changed it over to 15-inch wheels.
You can go, that today cars go anywhere from basically 17 inches up to 24 inches. That's just to give you a safer ride with a little thinner sidewall and a bigger tire. So, on that truck, I just picturing one I was watching on a TV show last night, an old 54 Ford, and it does look good with that 15-inch wheel in there and a lot of tire on the side of it. But I think you could probably go with an aftermarket 16-inch wheel, and it would still look really nice. You might go with a tire that's just a little bit taller to give you that fat sidewall look that those old trucks had, but it would be a nice, safe tire, give you some more options. Because at 16-inch, you're only talking a half inch on the top and a half inch on the bottom. So it's really minor. And if it gives you a bigger range of wheels you can pick up for that, I'd really consider going to that. And you're right, the 16-inch, the 3/4 tons and different trucks that had 6 lugs. I mean, eventually you get to an 8-lug, but that might be the way to go. And I don't know, if you're looking on the internet, you might find that even some of the 6-bolt half-ton trucks, like the newer ones you get up in the 2000s, I'm not so sure one of those wouldn't bolt on there. I don't know what the offset is and what the center spacing is.
The center and the offset are going to be your challenge to address, because all the newer trucks, once you get past a certain, like in 1888, they went to a real positive offset on the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to watch that. And by positive offset, we're talking that the face of the wheel is closer to the outside of the rim, and then the rim sets in deeper to the backside, and that's where you run into problems with binding suspension components, rubbing when you're turning, and that sort of thing.
So you mean that the bolts, the lug nuts themselves are closer to the outer edge of the
that's a positive
wheel.
offset.
Okay.
Yep. A zero offset would be basically balanced front to back, where the center plate would be. If you put a flat plate on the
big
back
dish,
of the wheels,
Yeah.
So negative offset means you start pushing it out the other way, and so that's when you get into your trucks you see coming down the road where the tires are sticking outside the fender flares, which is illegal in most states. They have your tires sticking out past your fender flares
Because they throw rocks.
What about
Cool.
the like putting the spike on the outside, like in Greece, where you go and
Those
Only
aren't
until they
allowed
stop
either.
you.
right?
But they look cool.
It's easier to say sorry than ask.
Yeah.
Mark, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Easier to ask forgiveness than ask permission. That's what That's what my brain was trying to tell my mouth to say.
I knew.
Yeah, I thought.
I don't know about everybody else, but I looked at you and knew exactly what you're talking about.
Let's go to Massachusetts and talk to Richard. You're on the Under the Hood show. Richard, what can we do for you?
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
This is the problem that I'm having is I'm not alone in it. I have a 2012 Chrysler Town and Country, and what happens is, and it's very, very consistent. It's happened to me 5 times. Be driving it and it'll just shut off. So you pull over and you try to start it, and the engine will crank but won't turn over. But the minute that you move that car, the other day it happened that I moved it like 2 feet and it started. And it always seems to happen. The other commonality with the whole situation is it's usually around 30 or 40 miles an hour. I've been on the highway, unfortunately, and doing 70, 75, and nothing's happened. And I did that under the guidance that I thought everything was okay with the car, but don't know if you can help me.
We've had a few with this problem, and there's been various issues because you can have multiple things cause this and still get the same result. It's going to die. But one of the bigger things we found on these, when they tell us they just shut off going down the road and I don't have any codes or anything in the system and I can't see anything that would look like it would make it do this and I can't duplicate it, I will pull the engine computer out of that fender well and take a look at the wiring harness on it, because the wiring harness, if you're in any area where it's going to get really damp, we say snow and salt and ice. But if you're in an area that gets pine needles and leaves and debris that gets in there and starts to rot that covering on that harness, it can rub through and cause a short. And any kind of movement at all, turning the wheels and everything, it can move enough and then start back up again. And they all, I don't know why they have put all the computers on this model vehicle down in an area where they're there to stop the impact, I think, when a car is hit.
They protect the vehicle in case of an accident with all the vital computers.
Yep, they just pile them up there.
Get hit by all the spray and
they put them in the corner. So if the bumper gets hit in the corner a little bit, it's going to kill this thing. And if it's ever been in a slight fender bender up there and they've had to put a bumper cover on it, it could have damaged the wiring and not have been noticed at the time. Could have tore the cover on it. That is a place that we would inspect. If you've gone through this where the places, mechanics, dealers, whoever have worked on it and said, we just can't find the problem, it's just not there, they may want to inspect the wiring harness at that computer. You're going to look to spend about an hour's worth of labor to do the inspection. And at this point, if they've tried everything else and can't figure it out, it might be worth spending the hour just to have it looked at. Or if you've got a friend that's mechanically inclined and wants to go to YouTube and see where that computer's located, they may do it for you at minimal cost and take a look and see what's going on. So we like to look in that area when we're working on them. In fact, some of them we've put engines in. We've even looked in that area while we're doing the job because we move it around.
No kidding.
And we don't want a replacement engine. They call us a week later and say, well, it's dying. We're like, well, what do you mean it's dying? Well, it's been doing it for a long time. Well, why didn't you tell us?
Yeah.
If he had a scanner on that vehicle going down the road and driving it when it died, what would he see if that was the problem?
See the RPM go to 0 and the engine, because the engine's dead, but that's it. You wouldn't see any codes. You wouldn't see any weird numbers.
That's the exact point I was going to try to make.
Shuts off. It's like you turn the key off.
Sure.
No, I was. You're not going to see anything. Is in like where if you run out of fuel, you might get a lean code. If you're running out of, you might get misfires.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Does that help you out there at all?
Recall. One of the things that was a recall by Chrysler was a PCM sensor, and we replaced that. And I thought that it fixed it because we hadn't had any trouble for like 4 months. And then 3 weeks ago, I went up to my son's in Maine, and like I said, I was doing 70, 75 on the highway. And 2 days after we came back, that's when the thing conked out on my wife. But I hadn't heard the harness type of thing that you had mentioned. Had checked, the fuel pump and the camshaft sensor and that stuff. But, it could be any one of 5 or 6 different things,
Yeah.
That's no fun when you got those at all. But I think Russ is onto something that you should probably investigate.
Good luck, Richard. Thanks for the call. Can I take the computer out and then just
Yeah, that'll
kind of get like like it's a Nintendo cartridge, get to pound the water out of it?
No.
What?
Water?
Not going to do
Don't
it.
spit in it.
We're going to take a
Wouldn't be
break.
prudent.
When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Alan. Alan, you are on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
I got a 2007 Dodge Ram pickup, 1500. I'm having trouble with the four-wheel drive on. I turn the control on the dash, 4 high, and it just flashes. And it does the same thing with 4 low. It just flashes. I've replaced the control down on the transfer case, and I've replaced the actuator up on the front axle. Is there anything else I can do to get it?
When you replace the actuator on the transfer case, did you get a new OEM one, an aftermarket, a used one, and did it get programmed?
No, I just got it out of O'Reilly's Auto Parts store. I don't know. It was a new one. I know that. It was not a remanufactured.
Okay.
It said that it comes set at 2 high, and to put the transfer case into 2 high before you mount it. And so I made sure of all that.
That makes it easier for you when you get one that is that way, because otherwise you've got to go moving it or moving the transfer case. In some transfer cases, you cannot move to the right place because they're spring-loaded, and you'd have to hold them there and try to put it on. There's not enough room in between unless you had a wrench that was paper-thin. They don't make those. Not like that. So there's the control system for that. The electronics that control that could be the problem. Some of them you need to use a scan tool and relearn the position. Even though you're putting it on and it's in too high, you still have to relearn that position. You don't know where it was when you took it off, basically, in a lot of cases. If it didn't work before you took it off, and now you've put a part on it and it still doesn't work, we're more apt to put the old one back on and do some testing and go from there, unless it needs to be recalibrated and programmed. You get into the Chevrolets, they all have to be reprogrammed now, calibrated. Definitely want to check that. But if you have problems with your electronics, some of the vehicles are using the body control module to actuate these things. Other ones have a 4x4 module in them. But now the newer the truck goes, they're all going to body control module to activate these things.
So there's a lot there in your answer. What's Alan's next step on this?
The next step is it really should have a shop take a peek at it that's familiar with this four-wheel drive system and see if it just needs to be recalibrated or if the system has another electronic issue in it that needs to be addressed. But he's done the at-home work already as far as the two major items that can be replaced: the front actuator on the front axle and the transfer case shift motor. Those are the two big ones on this.
And it would do the same thing if it was having an internal problem in the transfer case and couldn't shift properly, too.
If it can't move it because the forks are broken, now be prepared for that. If you have not changed your transfer case fluid ever in this, you might want to take the bottom plug and loosen it up just enough to where you can put a white rag under it or something and just take it out just for like a split second, put it back in, then tighten it up just so you get enough on the rag that you can read it. And if it's silver and all full of metal filings, then that transfer case is done. And we've had plenty of those. They come in the winter and they say, hey, my four-wheel drive stopped working last year. There's no noise. And we look at it and say, well, your actuator's not working. Before we pull this thing off, let's check the transfer case, right? Your transfer cases. Sometimes we pull that plug out and we just say, we're going to take it all the way out, and chunks are coming out, big pieces of gears and clutches and things.
And you can have that happen without the vehicle making a bunch of noise.
No noise at all.
Does that help you out there, Alan? Get you to the next step?
Yeah. How about if I did a test in my place? I jack it up off the ground, all four wheels. But I can manually shift that transfer case with the pliers. I found that.
If you do that and the four-wheel drive works, then you know your transfer case is working.
Okay.
And in that system, the way it's set up, I mean, I understand the concepts enough to know that when you touch the knob or the button, depending on how your system is set up, like Russ said, and some of them, they're going to have that signal go to a body control module, which is like a central computer, and that's what's going to send the signal down to your actuator on the transfer case. And so there's another set of patchwork there of that CAN bus network that has to communicate for that to work. And some of them, you got this separate module that does that job. So you're going to be, if you've done that work, like Russ said, check the four-wheel drive transfer case, now you've got to diagnose that circuit backwards from the transfer case to see, okay, why am I not getting a signal? Because the flashing light's basically telling you something's not right, not doing this, I can't do this. It's either I can't do this or I'm not doing this.
Right.
And the not doing this would be because something's jammed up. And I think he's eliminated that, it sure seems like. But he's got the same problem with a new actuator on both ends as he did before. I bet he's going to find himself that maybe that actuator, when it failed, may have put enough resistance in the circuit that it pops something else up the stream.
Alan, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. So
if the actuator even failed, they said his other actuator might be fine.
But that's neither here nor there now because he's got it. So the three things that he's checked and done are three of the big ones. Now he's just got to track down what's causing that part of it.
Which is the hardest thing to figure out.
Sure, but I feel good about it that he's not going to have to do the transfer case or
Well, the thing, just to kind of put a little bit more of a bow on that, is that there's a lot of people that don't know how to do, obviously, what he just did.
Right.
And so when they go to a shop, and if the shop happens to be a little bit unfamiliar with the system, you can get into a pretty expensive bill in a hurry. Because they're going to say, okay, we think it's this. We want to try the front actuator.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they could have done a little more reasoning to figure out if that was it or not. So you buy one of them and put it on. Oh, we still got the problem. Okay, we want to try the actuator on the transfer case. And all of this is because they might not quite know how to diagnose that CAN bus circuit of the rest of that system.
You could do that at home if they might want to try something.
Right. And so then
I'll
you go to
try it myself.
Then you go to your local auto parts store and you buy the actuator like he did. He has good instructions. He understands how to do it. and now you're at the point you would have had to buy your way to get to otherwise.
I want to circle back. 825,000 vehicles are in that recall you guys were talking about while I was driving in. The vehicles impacted are 2022 and 23 GMC Yukon, Sierra 1500s, Cadillac Escalade, Tahoe, Suburbans, Silverados, CT4S, CT5S, as well as the Buick Envision. It can be done, it is a software update which can be done at the dealership or over the air. So once you get your recall notice, just know that you might not have to do the whole thing where you drop it off for a week and a half. It might be simple, so go get it done because it's dangerous, right?
You don't like seeing the blinding.
I'm going to brag. This will be the only time I ever brag about my body and my physical prowess. Those lights do not bother me. I don't know why. We've been driving in the car, and the whole car is blinded, and I'm just like, it's fine.
Government forcing all that stuff on you. Wait till they say, well, we're just going to force that update over your car, and you're going to take it whether you like it or not because it's a safety item.
That took a
yuck
turn there at the end.
Yeah.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood show.
It
On that
should.
note, sorry.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us on Under the Hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, Hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
I had a few people send me the same story because they were obviously thought I'd be interested in it. I do appreciate people that send me things. I don't get a chance to review all the things that people send me.
Sure.
My inbox is a pretty interesting place. But this story caught my eye. And so I clicked on it, and they were talking about whether the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration would have to get new testing equipment because of the weight of the electric vehicles that were going to be ramming into their barriers and hitting their things. And as an example, my truck I got a newer Silverado, and it weighs like 5,500 pounds or something like that, if I remember what the curb weight rating is. It's a heavy truck, 5,000-6,000 pounds. It's a heavy truck. Well, the new Silverado EV or Hummer EV, the curb weight on that is about 9,000 pounds. You got 3,000 pounds of battery built into the chassis.
That's the Hummer, though.
Yeah. So, the Silverado EV with the up package is going to be about the same.
I thought those were like 75.
They're going to be
But
similar.
it's still pretty heavy.
Let's just say similar. They're heavier than what is now. So,
Good in the snow, huh?
So the folks at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said we better figure out if this is going to break our stuff or not. So they took a older generation Ford truck and they loaded the back end with ballast, different kinds of ballast, different kind of weight to simulate the weight of an EV truck crashing into it. And I'll upload the story to our Facebook page when I get a chance here on the Under the Hood Show Facebook page. But it's a little unfair in one regard because they've got all this weight in the box and it's all pushing forward and just collapsing the cab back and everything. It to me that's a little unfair to give because in that EV the weight is down low in the chassis,
right?
And it's going to be part of that frame structure. I would argue, and I'm sure the engineers are way ahead of me on this, but that is going to be a much harder impact with that pancaked in the frame than what they simulated by putting it in the box. Because when they had it in the box, there was a lot of energy absorbed
as it moved forward,
as it buckled
and
into the cab, and it buckled the middle down. As I looked at the videos or pictures of it,
but what they're attempting to do is just to see if their brick at the end of the road would hold control,
which it did,
okay.
which it did. But
so
I'm going to be very curious to see what happens when they show or release. They've probably already done it, but release the video of a Hummer EV getting smacked into their barrier and what happens. Because I do know also that a friend of mine said that a lot of the dealerships, that the manufacturers are going around and saying, oh, by the way, your hoist that you have in your shop at 10,000 pounds, they're built into the floor and everything, but they don't work anymore. Yeah. You need to be authorized to have a 12,000 or a 14,000 pound
Yeah, the insurance
hoist.
companies are going to come in and say, hey, that's not enough.
Yep, because you need to be above that rating because of other things that come up. So the weight of these vehicles is a continued thing they got to figure out. The transports are having problems. How many cars they can put on a transport? One person said to me, "What do you suppose the weight rating is that they engineered a parking ramp for?"
Oh.
Another thing to think about, you got all these, so 3/4 tons, the 1 tons, they're just generally heavier truck. A big 1-ton dually diesel is going to be in that weight rating, but there's very few of those on the road compared to millions and millions of half tons. What happens when you get a ton of these half tons weighing 9,000 pounds, and they should do some offset barrier tests with a Honda Fit or a Honda Civic or a Chevy Impala. When you slam 8,000 pounds of forward weight directly into the corner of which happens a lot on these cars, the damage that's going to incur is going to be exponential. I mean, when you add 1,000 pounds to a vehicle, it's insane what kind of damage you'll do.
So they're continuing to try to figure out this stuff.
Yeah, they got it all figured out, don't they?
And I think we obviously realize in this country that there's such a push right now that we've got the order of events catching up with itself.
Yeah.
And so
now hydrogen, you hear that word thrown around a lot.
There's a
They're
lot more than
way
used to.
lighter than the electric.
Well, then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I saw it on Barstool, first of all places on Twitter, that,
Coal
oh, by
fusion.
the way, nuclear fusion. They've successfully gotten more out of a split of hydrogen than they put in.
That's not for you. You shouldn't be on Barstool Sports.
What's that?
You shouldn't be on Barstool.
Oh, yeah, it's
Back to the Future. When did they come out with? When was? What year was the Mr. Fusion? When did he bring that back
Good
from?
question. Yeah, because we're
Because
old.
it wasn't that. I thought it was like 2015, 15 maybe.
And we just recently joked on the show about the
Yeah.
little pellet in your hand.
Yeah.
And then that news story comes out, and it was pretty amazing to me though that Barstool for me was the one that broke it before any of the national news outlets.
I felt bad because I had already sent that to him.
At the same time.
No, way earlier.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Where'd you see it at?
Well, I can't remember.
So I mean, it just shows you what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's
Sports in general.
But it was first it was rumors. That's when and then they confirmed that they were going to say it. And it was pretty exciting.
So it kind of makes you think that, all right, so what does that do? If they truly have got this kind of figured out, the acceleration of figuring it out is going to happen pretty fast.
If they figure it out on a large scale and it works, it changes the entire planet. Because at that point,
I don't think I want to be in the windmill industry at that point.
Well, if it's working, you truly don't need wind power, solar power, nuclear energy. You don't need oil. You don't need gas. Fossil fuels are gone because you've got a clean, sustainable energy. All the sci-fi shows that are produced, basically, once that happened,
predicated on that, yeah.
the whole everything changed. But it also changes a lot of things. World governments and everything. If they're people, you've got energy. Nobody's fighting for energy anymore. What happens to their economies?
We can find something. We can find something to fight about.
They're gonna try to take everybody out that has anything to do with this.
Yeah, we wouldn't
The car that
shouldn't
ran
even
on
been
water.
talking about it. Let's go to Idaho and talk to CJ. You're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, hi guys.
Hi there.
So we have I thought it was an 86, but I just looked and it's an 89 Ford F-250, and we're having a problem with the starter and the ignition staying engaged. It had a bad starter. We put a new starter in it. It was staying engaged. Somebody told us it was a solenoid. We went and put a new solenoid in it. It's still staying engaged. Like the only way we can start it without the starter staying engaged is to actually take the wire off the solenoid and then kind of have to jump it with the wire to start it. But then you have to pull the wire back off as soon as it starts.
All right, so there's two solenoids on that. You got one on the starter, one up top on the fender, but obviously the one you can get to is the one on the fender. So if you remove the wire and it stops cranking, our problem lies between the switch and the starter. Is it a manual transmission with a clutch pedal or automatic?
No, it's an automatic.
Okay. Well, on that one, the power runs from the ignition switch down to the transmission to the driver's side of it. There is a manual lever position switch on there that tells it when it's in neutral and park and such. And then it leaves there and goes to that solenoid. What you might try
the solenoid up top or the bottom solenoid?
The top one. That's the first one that you can just touch and it starts cranking. So here's what I want you to do. go to probably one of the easiest places to do would be to go down to the transmission underneath and unplug that switch on the side of the transmission there, right where the linkage hooks up to shift it, and then go up top and touch that wire. If you touch that wire and nothing happens, we know that disconnecting it down there, there's no short of the wires between that switch and your starter. Now at this point, you're going to have to get yourself a test light and get on the internet and see which pin's which. But if you test that and turn your key to the start position and you see that it lights up every time you go to start and then you let go of it, I think it's the red with the blue stripe wire on that, but you'll turn it to crank, and if it lights up, okay, we got crank. You let go of the key, it shuts off. You probably have a problem inside of that switch because the reverse lights in that, the backup lights, are powered all the time when the key's on. So if they're powered and it cranks, it'll do it. Now, here's something that kind of would relate to that. When you're cranking it, if you crank it and the starter stays engaged, if you turn the key completely off and take the key out, does it stop cranking then, or does it keep grinding?
It sometimes. Sometimes if you turn the key completely off, it will stop, and other times if you turn the key off, it's like it's still getting power somehow.
Okay. The reverse lights shut off when you turn the key off. So since it doesn't stop every time when you turn the key off, it's more likely an ignition switch issue, and that could be tested by you have to take the cover off the bottom of that steering column. There's a few Phillips screws in there, and then you could test it there. But you're going to have to get yourself a little wiring diagram tested. At least it's a simple circuit with no computers in it.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Does that help you out there?
It does help out a lot. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks very much for the call. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. This is the Under the Hood Show.
Digital equipment, used, new alternative aftermarket, and models. And for a small fee, Nordstrom's will deliver your parts right to your door. Whether you're looking to replace your vehicle's tires, or that mirror you cracked last month, or maybe
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to Wisconsin and talk to Paul. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you, Paul?
Yes, I've got a 66 Skylark with a 300 two-barrel in it. Picked it up this past spring. Went through the upper half of the engine and everything, cleaned it all up. But I'm burning oil and not quite sure at this point if it's a rebuild, if I should look for a different engine, for what the situation is. It's burning quite a bit, but it's not smoking like a chimney. Believe it or not, I'm going through about a quart of oil every 200 miles.
Wow.
Compression's 125 in all the cylinders except one. That one's at 119.
It might be oiled up enough that it's holding compression.
Well, the other thing that could be going on is that I'm trying to think, that Skylark, is that a closed, that intake manifold on that, is that a closed valley intake, or can you see underneath the intake and there's a pan underneath it?
There's a pan underneath it.
All right.
That kind of
Lucky
rules
you.
that out, doesn't it?
Well, that kind of tells me your engine's probably shot on the bottom end, because if you don't have a pan, the ones that were, Pontiac and Buick, they went to this valley pan underneath, and then there was no way for an intake leak to suck oil in from the engine. But on ones that are closed, they can pull oil up out of the valley into the bottom of the intake, and it'll burn oil. And then you just put intake gaskets in it, not with a valley pan. So, yeah, the cylinder that's down is probably the one that's got, if you pull that spark plug out, it's probably going to be oil fouled compared to the other 7. And you could probably run it that way for some time yet. You don't have catalytic converters to worry about, and if it's not blowing a lot of blue smoke out the back, I would say just spend the money on oil right now, because it's not like a daily driver, and save that money while you're enjoying using the car until you're ready to build it or put something different in it. Too many people I've known over the years have said, oh, I've got to fix this, so they tear it all apart. They don't get to use the car for 10, 15 years, and then finally they say, where are all my parts? I didn't get to enjoy it all this time. I could have been driving it the way it was and not done anything to it. Or at some point they might have said, they sell it, at the end with it all apart, where they could have just left it together and drove it and enjoyed it and
That's
said,
the sage
"No, I'm gonna
advice,
sell it."
Russ.
Just
Because I have run across a lot of people in that same situation.
Yeah,
I
just-
took it apart 15 years ago because it was doing this, and
Yeah, you wanted to make it better, and I've had 2 examples of that. My Chevy truck, I took it apart to make it better, and boy, it was really cool, and somebody else enjoyed it after I sold it to them when it was apart. My Trans Am, I could have driven it for another 10 years as is and enjoyed it. Instead, I took it apart and started.
you really took it apart.
I started making it really cool, and I had all these parts, but I ended up getting rid of it because it just took up space. So I'd say drive this thing. That
depends on what his goal is.
Yeah.
If your goal is to flip it and turn it or do something with it, then it's a different story. But if your goal is to enjoy it,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. Our partner on the show, Berkeley One Classics, has been with us for a very long time. We've had this discussion often about different kinds of cars, and their main car is the daily enjoyment car that somebody can just look out and say, you know what, I got some time off today, I'm going to go drive this thing. Not necessarily the super expensive show queen that doesn't get driven. Now, they insure everything
all that
from
too.
a $100 million car, if there was one, to the $10,000 car. But the main key is they're about helping you enjoy your vehicle. So that's our thought too. If you got a car, drive the thing and enjoy it.
Is it kind of amazing to you, Russ, that he's not shooting more blue smoke out with that kind of oil consumption? I mean, you got no Cadillac
there's
converter.
a
It's
fine
coming out.
line.
It is coming out once. It's only, and what bit there is coming out the passenger side only.
With that bad cylinder.
And I think that's the side of the bad cylinder.
Yeah,
Or,
and
the lesser cylinder.
I don't think that a valve stem seal
would
is
use that
gonna
much
be-
oil.
Right, because, and you've also got, that some people will
I
say,
did
well,
the
what
valve
about
seals when I had the upper apart.
that? And when you're doing a compression check, it's not going to go past a valve seal because the valves are closed. So there's probably some people thinking, well, what about a valve seal? No, not on this one.
What, was this and burning oil was happening before you did the top end rebuild?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't drive it that much before I took it apart because it was the oil or the engine itself. The gaskets were all leaking, so I decided to just take the whole upper part, put all new gaskets on it, get it cleaned up, It's a driver. It's not a queen, a trailer queen.
But
it's a driver.
But you didn't pull the heads and grind valves or anything like that.
Somewhat presentable and clean. So
Yeah.
Did you pull the heads and grind valves or do anything like that?
no, didn't have to. I think we just went through it all, cleaned it all up.
Resealed it and redid the top end.
Resealed it. Yep.
Yeah, because we've seen that before too, where people will take an older engine and they'll pull the heads and they'll redo the heads and the valves and put it back together, and the top end's way too good for the old bottom end. But in this case, you wouldn't have changed any of that. You just resealed it. So.
Hold on a second, Paul. I'm taking you off the air for a second. We have to find out what color it is, right? Now, Paul, we're gonna guess what color it is. So don't say the color. We may have further questions. I don't think. But
I think this 66 Skylark that Paul has in Wisconsin is white.
I'm gonna come back to that. Russ?
It's that goldish color.
Okay. Doug says yellow.
But Doug's guessing now. I love it.
Doug's
He's typing it on the screen.
Why do you think white?
Because I think everyone I've ever seen has been white.
Okay, I was going to say white, and I was going to say it's white because he's having an issue with it, meaning it's been somewhat not neglected, but it's just been allowed to get to this point, and if it were a cool color, it would not have been allowed to get to this point, and he wouldn't have been able to get it.
Wow, you've thought that
I
through.
really have. Paul, what color is the Skylark?
It is the burgundy.
Oh. So
with a black vinyl halo top.
All four of us nailed it. We didn't get anywhere near it.
Did you buy the car near you, or did you get it from somewhere else?
No, I think I'm the third or fourth owner. It originated. You guys are out in Sioux Falls, right?
Yes, right by Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Yeah, it originated out by you, came to Wisconsin, went back to Sioux Falls, and now it's back in Wisconsin.
That's fun. Yeah.
That is, yeah. And Russ, holy moly, Russ just dropped a truth bomb on the Under the Hood show.
What did I miss?
Oh, the whole you pointed it out. The whole philosophy there. That's a whole driving philosophy that Russ just casually dropped on Paul, but I think it might be bigger than that.
Oh, that yeah. I'm just, my brain wasn't catching up.
Paul, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Yeah, I think that might be a watershed moment on Under the Hood, because that is what a great point.
Don't tear your drivable classic apart unless you know you're going to fix it right then.
Right. Yeah, and yes, and if it's something that you think you can fix, don't tear it apart to get that. Just enjoy it. And
Grandpa tore the old truck apart, and he spent 20 years not doing much with it. He always said at Christmas how much I really wanted to drive it, and then guess what? He died and couldn't drive the truck. So why didn't you just enjoy it? That's totally made up.
Took a turn again there at the end.
Did take a turn.
You got it, and just enjoy what you got.
Now I'm worried about Paul's health.
When your Model T was parked, was it operating?
No, it was in pieces.
Well, no, they didn't park it in pieces. At some point, it was parked.
Oh, you mean
way
all
back.
those years? It could have ran, but they never moved it.
Okay.
So
It
that
just
was one
sat.
that kind of
kinda
died
curious
and
about
just
that.
sat.
My footprints were still on the drive shaft from where I used to stand on the drive shaft
Isn't
when
that
the
amazing?
bedboards were off
Yeah.
to pull the garage door open really so I could open the door quietly and sneak my car out and push it down the driveway and take off.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. Jason, you're up next. 866-594-4150.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Don't forget, you can watch the show on YouTube, and if you do that and subscribe, click the bell, do the notifications, do all that stuff, and join the Hoodie fan club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Johnny Miller, congratulations from our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. I wish I was young and headed out for the first time and studying. I'd be studying there.
That's what you wish for when you think, I wish I were young, I wish I could go back and study this.
If I was going to be a mechanic, but if I was going to go back.
You could have been just a nuclear physicist and got it all over with. Yeah. We would have had this whole fusion thing figured out years ago.
Yeah, if I could go back now, I'd do that. You know, my mom used to, for a while there at the end of things, she'd say, you know what, you made God cry. I'm like, what? She's like, for wasting your talent. And I'm like, what?
Well,
like,
I mean,
why didn't you just do more?
Didn't you just, like, in your sleep, rock all your math and all that stuff? Like, just.
Yeah, and then I just would leave, you know.
See, his story is the exact opposite of mine. When I was in school, they said I was wasting my talent. Now people that know me now that people know me, they're like, oh, no, you're about right.
You made God cry, too.
Yeah.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Kansas City and talk to Jason. What can we do for you, Jason? Are you there, Jason? We try and put him on hold one more time and come back.
We'll get him a new phone.
Better? Oh, there you are. Yeah, now we can hear you, Jason. Go ahead.
I got a new phone.
For Christmas. For Christmas, I want a new phone and a 2012 RAM that works.
That'd be good. But I went to work the other day and it kind of like fogged up here in Kansas City and cooled off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I got down to work, got in the work truck. I was sitting there and all of a sudden the panic alarm, or like the panic alarm was going off. The lights were flashing, the horn was honking. Well, the panic button didn't shut it off.
Uh-oh.
I figured I'd undo the battery. I got my wrench out and just touched the positive cable and everything quit. And it ain't done it since. I was just curious if there's something goofy going on or what the deal is.
Just a coincidence.
Definitely
the alarm,
something goofy going on.
The alarm on the truck got set off. So it wasn't your panic button. It was the actual alarm.
That's what you think happened.
Yeah, and when you went out there, it just happened to be, if you would have waited one more second before you would have touched that, it would have quit.
It would have timed out.
Because it hasn't done this since then, has it?
It was just ready doing its
No,
thing.
I didn't know it had an alarm.
Yeah, if you get in the car,
This is easily done.
take your keys out and hit the lock button on that remote, and then wait a little bit. Maybe you were on the phone that was working then. Wait like 30 seconds, and then reach over and unlock the door and open the door. It should go off. It should start.
In the car.
Yeah.
Shut it off. Sit in the truck.
And I've done that.
So you're acting like an intruder.
Yeah,
Right.
I've gone to work. I've been in my car, and for whatever reason, I got my door locked. And I'm on my phone, and I'm doing whatever, and then I'm like, okay, got to go. And you open the door to go inside, and all of a sudden the alarm goes off, and you're like, I got to hit the unlock button on my remote. The panic button won't do it, but the unlock one will do it. Or put the key in the ignition, turn it back on.
Key in the ignition or key in the door.
We set so many alarms off at our place working on customers' cars because different things happen that we run into this.
Seems pretty
Well,
straightforward.
like I said, I didn't even realize that there was an alarm on it.
Yeah, it's
But now
kind
it
of
makes
cheesy
sense.
now.
I was afraid it's going to go off. I was afraid it's going to go off while I'm at home and bed. Neighbors get mad.
I'm going to wait now. Well, Jason's going to be out in his driveway, and he's going to be trying to set off his alarm. Now he's really going to get the neighbors upset. He needs to do it like 10 times to prove the theory.
The first night I got my replacement alarm set up in my house, it was working for about 2 hours, just enough to get really good and sound asleep. And it went
You're talking about a home alarm.
Yeah. And then it went off because we've got a moving Mickey Mouse Disney character for Disney. You know, you've seen those
Set
Chris?
off the alarm.
Mickey and Minnie, and they're moving in the living room, and I had the armed stay. The motion sensors were active. So I just hit the stay button and went to bed. And then when it activated a minute later, it's the motion sensor was in, so Mickey's waving.
I think this conversation right now is the equivalent of Elon Musk tweeting out what's on his nightstand.
It's a little bit.
Does he have a nightstand? He said he was homeless.
No, you have to find the tweet where he sent out the picture of what was on his nightstand.
At his buddy's house.
This is why
you don't want your alarm going off in your car at the middle of the night.
This is why Russ is the one who answers questions and not me. Because when he said it was your alarm going off, I thought you could test that, Jason. Just just lock it, set the alarm, and then break a window, and then that's why I sounded so surprised when I went, oh, just stay in the truck. Oh, good idea. Pick a cheap window, and then reach in, and then
Yeah, you gotta wait for the shutdown relay to power down and all that stuff on most of these vehicles. But eventually, you're an intruder.
hello, officer. I'm just testing the.
I'm just stealing my own truck.
I'm just testing the alarm. Why did you break the window? You ever
Because
heard
I'm
of the Under
dumb.
the Hood show?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you really listen to those guys? Oh my gosh.
Jason,
I
good
listened to
luck.
Chris.
Thanks for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Tom. You're on the Under the Hood show. Tom, what can we do for you?
Hi, see, I got an F-150 Ford. I replaced the heater core, and I've replaced the pump, and I burnt out the radiator, got that clean, and I cannot get heat inside my truck, my cab. The thermostat is up, the hose, you can feel it on the radiator, but it does not push the heat into the pickup.
Oh no. Well, if the thermostat is good, you're maintaining heat going down the road, it's not dropping.
Right.
And your heater hoses are hot. You've got a new water pump, so it's moving.
Yep.
You're moving coolant, and it's not getting hot inside. You've got a new heater core too. Then we know we should be getting heat inside to that heater core. It's got to be something in your doors inside of the truck. They're doors that move to allow that heat to move.
And he just had that all apart.
Yeah, well, you might have to. Well, he had the heater core out of it, which comes different.
Okay, I thought that was when you
No.
had to take the whole
You mean like the
dash apart and
blend
everything.
doors and the doors
Yeah,
inside
they're going to
the
be
dash.
separate areas. So what you might try to do?
Did you say you
Pull-
had heat in the lines going in the heater core and out both? I mean, if you probe them with the temperature, shoot them with the temperature gauge.
On the hose, yes, on the hoses from the radiator, it is hot, yes.
Yeah, on the heater core, with the blower on, one should be hot and one should be cooler because it's taking heat out of the cab, but
There's
you're not
some
getting that. So it's
temperature
going to be
there, though.
hot on both sides in this case. But you might take the blower motor out and stick your hand up inside of that box, and if a possum doesn't bite your fingers off, you might be able to see if the heater core is getting hot, and then that'll kind of give you an idea if you're getting plenty of heat in there. And you might have it's common to have doors not operate on those, and it can be either the temp door control motor that activates it and moves it back and forth, or it could be a broken door. We see more of the actuator going bad, and even that turn knob on the dash on those, we've had plenty of those fail and not allow it to operate. You should be able to turn the blower on high and listen to the noise of the air flowing out. And if you put it all the way on hot and listen, and then move it all the way to the cold and listen and wait a few seconds between each one, you should be able to hear it go, from like change pitch, or it'll change as that door moves. If you hear nothing, there's no door moving in there. And you've got to have that door move fully back and forth. You may even take the glove box out, take the actuator off that moves it from hot to cold, and watch it, or take the actuator off and turn the door by hand. If you can't turn it by hand, if it's stuck or if it kind of feels like it's flopping around in there, the box is going to have to come apart.
So if the air noise changes, that
means it's moving
that
some.
means at least that part is
But I'm guessing he's not going to hear any air noise changing.
Okay.
Chris.
I like that idea of pulling the blower motor out and just feeling if he's got heat up in there.
Watch out for possums.
Possibility.
Is that a big problem? Possum specifically? And it's a F0. It's an 2000 F-150. There, now I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Does that help you out there, Tom?
I think so, yeah. Sounds like you got to tear the dash out then, right? Or you just behind the glove box.
If you need to take the whole box out to repair the air doors, you have to take the dash out. But luckily, it's a 2000 F-150 and not a 2012 Toyota Prius. Because you can get the whole dash out of that F-150 and back in. Even if you're doing it yourself, I bet you could probably do it at home in a day. Prius, you do it in like 3 days each way in a shop professionally.
And every once in a while, you can get lucky and find out on YouTube when you have a broken door, somebody that's figured out a hack.
And it's literally that. You hack
hack-
away the front of this case, pull a piece of plastic off, fix the door, and then you put it back together. Our partners at Dorman Products.
They have a few of these that are
makes-
professional hacks.
Yeah, And they say, look, put this template on. Get your saw. Cut. Pull it out. Pull the broken door out. Put the new door in. Glue this piece back on or screw this piece. And they're amazing. They work great. You can't see it. People are like, oh, I don't want to cut a hole in the box.
Who's going to see it?
Do you want to spend $1,200 to change it, or do you want to spend $200 in it? Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's try it.
It's a great solution.
So if you do get into that situation, take a few minutes and research, because there are some literal life hacks there that can save you a lot of money, a lot of time on an older vehicle.
It's going to be dormanproducts.com. So
and they'll probably have their own video on it.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah,
well, and if you go down like on their website and you put in your make model, you can basically see all the items that they make for that vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they could say, "Oh yeah, we make coil packet modules, we make throttle position sensor, we make." You can just see all the products that they've made their OE fixes for.
You can see what's probably next for your vehicle.
And you heard it right here on the Under the Hood Show.
It's like your lifeline.
Yeah.
All right.
Tom, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Got a question on Facebook. All right, you guys, I'll read it. You guys pay attention.
All right, let's do it.
2014 F-150 with the 5.0 Coyote, or Coyote if you're from South Dakota.
Wile E. Coyote.
Has a cylinder 4 misfire. My buddy it's his buddy's truck. Took it to a shop and they tested spark plugs and coils and everything checked out okay. They told him they'd have to remove the head and replace the valves. Does this sound right? Anything else to check first? Also, he doesn't want to spend $3,000 and was thinking of tackling the head removal and valve replacement himself. Would this be something that's doable by two guys in their backyard with intermediate experience working on cars?
Are you insane?
That's a yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But If you think you can do it, if you don't know, start over. If you don't know you can't do it, you can probably do it.
That's a good.
If you go into it
He's
not
so rich
He's
with
on
philosophy
today.
today.
all the stuff that we did when we were kids that should have got us killed, I didn't know that I couldn't do it.
Right?
So I did it, and everybody went, "You can't do that." I'm
That's
like,
why-
well,
yeah.
I did it. Now, if I was a kid and somebody said you can't do it, and here's why, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm never going to do that. I'm not dumb enough to do that."
No, you'd go on YouTube and go, "Oh, here's 40 kids that did it. I'm going to do it too." That's what the whole thing is. YouTube's changing everything.
Okay, but does he really have a valve or a head problem, you think?
Well, if he's done a leak down test,
That's what I want
and
to say.
he's got cylinder leakage past any valve,
You have to do that first.
with them closed.
Do not rely this on just a diagnostic
Then
test. Do a physical test.
Then they're shot. That's what's going on, and we have seen a few of them with some burnt valves that required replacement.
Are they
Getting that
burning
thing-
valves because of a misfire or because of a leanness or?
Yeah, that'll do it. But also a burnt valve will cause the misfire. So they've had some valve seat problems and stuff.
He's going to want to check the injector on that cylinder and stuff and make sure everything's healthy when he's done.
Yeah, you don't want to damage it. It's amazing how you can damage a fresh, brand new engine faster when there's a ignition problem or fuel problem than you can one that's already been well seasoned and used. A 100,000-mile engine that has an injector start to go bad and not spray and runs a little lean may make it a while before it burns a valve or a
Kind of
cylinder.
glazed over inside.
But if you got a brand new engine that's not broke in yet, boy, that little heat there will toast one cylinder real quick. We've seen that before. Not good.
I typed that entire answer into Facebook.
You
while
did
you guys,
not.
no,
You did not.
Did you hit the microphone button so it just transcribed it as we were giving the answer?
That would have been a good one.
Like
No, I just told him you guys were answering it while I was typing on Facebook.
So as far as him doing it in the backyard,
I don't
that's
know.
a good point though. If
you
they
got a
think
garage-
if they're asking that question, they probably can do it. It's one of
If
those.
they're mechanically inclined, if they've taken their four-wheeler apart, if they've taken their 350 Chevy apart, taken other things apart, yeah, and the tools are available.
and put them back together. I mean, not just
a lot
taking
of
them
it, yeah,
apart.
a lot of it is you can buy the specialty tools. Amazon's got them; they're not horribly priced. The thing is, though, is the time and knowing what you're doing and the willingness to say, "Oh, I put it all back together. I forgot this. Let's take it back apart again."
because that engine sits back in there pretty good.
Mhm.
So the clearance of getting at it is a challenge, but it's very doable. And then
just going to take time.
What if you got a
exhaust and
little
exhaust
buddy?
bolts will probably be his biggest challenge.
Yeah, getting the exhaust off without breaking all those studs. But the best thing we can tell you is when you get the head off the vehicle, if any of those exhaust bolts have broken off, if you might want to just take the whole head when you need the machine work done for the valves anyways, take it all down to your shop and say, remove all those studs, please, every one of them, and fix the valves because you want to be putting it back on with fresh studs, fresh hardware. Don't reuse the old exhaust hardware on any engine you're putting back together. They tend to break. So you put it back together with fresh parts, you're in a lot better shape.
Okay, this is an age-old question.
Okay, all right.
If he knows and he finds out he's got one valve and he's got his head off.
You inspect them all. And if
Yeah,
they're
but,
all, other ones are
he's
good,
not
don't
pulling the
touch
other
them.
side off.
No.
And could he just stick a valve in there and make sure it seals good and call it good enough? I mean, if he was willing to do that and doing it himself?
You don't know if it's going to seal, though. You can.
Because, I mean, if you touch up all those valves, is there any problem of doing
If
one
you
side
pull
and
the
not
valve
other?
out and you see that the valve is a little bent from maybe a piece of carbon in there or it's slightly burnt, but the seat, you can't see a mark on it at all with a flashlight, bright light you're looking at. It looks like brand new. You put the new valve in it, you set the thing face up on a bench, or you pour some carburetor cleaner down to get yourself some barium B12 chem tool. I mean, you use it for cleaning out all the carbon in there, and you can use it for a leak test. So you put it in the side of the intake or exhaust port on the back side, you let it sit, and if it leaks past the valve, it's not going to hold air. But if it doesn't leak anything and it's solid after sitting there for a while, you're good. And then go through and clean
Because
all
if you
that.
could do that versus machining, and you'd hate to have the other one side all fresh and the other side not.
Right. It wouldn't be a good idea to, go doing a complete valve job on the whole side unless you want to pull both sides off. But it is known on those trucks to not just lose one valve. We've seen some come in with 3 or 4 cylinders misfiring randomly, and it's more than one valve.
Do that leak down test though on every cylinder and see where you're at before you tear it apart.
And if you're taking it apart, I would say, if you're going to tow one side, do both sides. Just pull them both off. If the engine's in good shape, otherwise, take it down to the machine shop, have them do both sets of heads, bolt it back together, and then you've got to inspect the cams, all that. So, camshafts are important to look at when you've got an engine apart. Make sure there's no spalling like concrete when it's got little pieces missing. You don't want any rough spots. It's got to be smooth, no grinding marks or anything on it. Anything you see worn, just replace as you put it back together because you're saving a ton of labor by doing it yourself.
Did you just give me like a cheap first leak down possibility there for anyone, anytime, or just
for valves? Yeah, get yourself a can of barium and B12.
But you got to have the head off the engine,
right?
Or even a lawnmower engine, and you spray on the back side of it. If you had a Briggs & Stratton or a Tecumseh or whatever, you turn that thing upside down and you spray it in the intake or exhaust port, and you just watch. If it leaks past it, it's leaking valve.
Yeah.
If it doesn't leak, what are you doing? You're cleaning your carbon out.
Yeah.
And
so if it doesn't leak the liquid, that doesn't mean it's not bad. But
it's if it sits for like a half hour and you don't see any wetness on there, it's usually sealed up pretty good.
Okay.
If it's gonna leak, it's usually gonna seep through some. It'll start to discolor. Now air is a little different because we were talking about putting compression in there at 100 pounds or more. That's a little different than if you're putting liquid on the back side of it, but the compression's being pushed on the face of it, the outside, closing it, not from the inside out. So.
He brought up a lawnmower.
I agreed with you in that story and him in that story totally falsely. When you said, well, you have to take it out. Oh, yeah, sure, of course. And when he said, it's on the backside, it's on the face.
Went,
sure, yeah, of course.
He brought up a lawnmower. You know what that makes me think of?
Lawnmower Man?
Summertime. Mm-hmm. You know what summertime makes me think of? Swimming pools.
Swimming pools.
You know what swimming pools make me think of?
Movie stars?
Electricity.
And using it all?
No.
You know what swimming pools and electricity makes you think of? GFI outlets. You should get some if you know.
No, I've had this story sitting here, and it was, it's from, where is it? August. It was probably more germane in August.
Probably, but still.
But look at this, guys. You can see it here. That's from Automotive News Final Assembly, a Tesla swimming pool.
Oh, yeah.
And Tesla in Germany has taken this large cargo container type.
I'm putting one of those in the basement of my garage.
And they're going to make a swimming
That's
pool.
what I was telling you guys about the shipping container pool.
Yeah, so they're going to make a swimming pool at their charging station.
That's not, no way. That's disgusting.
And so that you can go in and, while your car is charging,
get yourself a nice case of E. coli.
Well, you're not drinking
if it's a
swimming rash.
If they make it a real pool.
It kind of looks like they got a real deal going there.
It's a shipping. Look them up. They're a shipping container pool. They're really cool and they're self-contained.
Yeah, it says they've opened a makeshift swimming pool at one of the largest supercharger stations in Germany, the Super Pool. Mm-hmm. It's simply a large metal roll-off container equipped with a retractable cover.
Like a garbage can.
Or as Jalopnik described it, a wet dumpster.
Right.
There you go.
A sign by the pool indicates that it will be open through August 28th and can be used up to 4 people for 10 minutes at a time. So I don't think your car is...
What does that mean?
You're just cooling off is all. You're not charging your whole car. You're just...
What does that mean?
Please do not park your EV in the pool.
Don't be in the water too long. You don't know how that's going to work out. I do like the idea of putting a big giant pool of water near my highest output consumer electricity.
No, I'm not kidding. Tesla is actually building a pool here, David, the podcast host, said in the video. I think this is an awesome idea from Tesla. You know, the legacy automakers, they're just finding out they need a proper fast charging network, and now this is not enough anymore. You want to get customers? You need a super pool.
Well, they said one of the biggest problems here in South Dakota when I was listening to the state legislature, they said, one of the biggest problems we have with EV charging stations is there's no place to go to the bathroom. Well, Tesla has figured that out.
Oh, Russ, you are on top of your game today.
I mean, really, they need a cup of coffee and a place to go to the bathroom, and then the coffee restarts the cycle again.
It could be peace law on the side.
Yeah, you just effectively made me never want to go swimming in a pool by an auto charger.
I
for
hate
sure.
public pools.
If
Disney's
it's a
a different
dumpster
story.
that the pool's in, that makes you more likely to think it's okay.
I'm okay
I
with the
was
Disney
fine
water
with it
park.
being a
Other than that, I'm nope, not gonna do it.
Oh my goodness, man! I've had this story sitting here, and I looked over it when he said lawnmower, and I thought, okay, this is a good opportunity to somehow segue back to the swimming pool story from August. I never used.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Remember, you can watch the show on our Facebook page or at our YouTube channel, and you can always find us at underthehoodshow.com. You can also find out there how and where you can listen to the Under the Hood Show anywhere in the United States and, dare I say, world. Underthehoodshow.com. For Russ Evans, Shannon Nordstrom, I'm Chris Carter. Thanks for joining us on the Under the Hood Show. Welcome to the after show. If you could see that that
Snow.
picture there when we were playing the end there, you can understand why the after show is going to be short.
Yeah, because I think these guys want to get moving on the highways sooner than later.
Doug and I are both going to be on the road here. So.
Boy, that second hour of the show ended way different than the first hour, didn't it?
It sure did.
I tell you what, if we gave awards for each show,
Like MVP of the show.
Russ is definitely got an MVP award today.
Nailed it.
We're gonna make that a YouTube short.
Yeah, no, that was on.
Chris wants
He
us.
was on top of his game. I mean, there was some great things that came out in that show. I mean, we went from nailing the color of the wire on the '89 F250 solenoid to actually pulling out and saying the thing I couldn't remember for the entire life of the show in 30 years. I can never remember MLPS, manual lever position sensor. That's what I was trying to think of. Like, MLPS got dropped. Then the philosophy of hey, if you got a classic car and it's a little bit broken, but you can still enjoy it, have your plan together, have your parts together. Don't tear it apart. Keep enjoying it, because the odds are you're going to tear it apart, stick it in the garage, and 15 years later you're going to be selling it to somebody else to fix. And in the meantime, you could have been enjoying it. Philosophy.
Yeah.
What was the other one?
Tearing apart your engine in the backyard. If you don't know you can't do it, you can
That's
do it.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that was. Oh, now he's starting to drink
And
his own.
now-
He's drinking his own
Did you hear
medicine
it?
now.
Did you
Just
hear it?
let us do
Did you
this,
hear the
Russ. It's a lot
change?
better that way.
Did you hear the change in his voice there?
I
Yeah.
did. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, that was me.
He's printing up bumper stickers in
And
his
at the
head.
beginning
We'll
of the
put
show,
them on the gas pumps. I did that.
At the beginning of the show, full disclosure, I'm dumb. And
That's no, yeah, we know.
Good thing
had
you
a
were doing
call
it with
from
Dumber then,
Nebraska.
because it was just
we
the
had a
two
call
of us.
from Nebraska. I'm going to say it.
Don't say
yes,
it.
I'm going to say it.
Don't say
And I told these guys in full disclosure that my whole life, I said, Nebraska. I said, I've always battled with that, what to put down for the state abbreviation. Because Russ had he had the abbreviations between Maine, Massachusetts, and Michigan. And I'm like,
Missouri, Mississippi.
and
Mississippi
I'm like,
gets
I
me
go,
every
I've been confused by Nebraska and New
What
England.
is five eyes and can't see?
And they go, it's not
Say
a
that
state.
again. We were talking.
I said I was confused by always Nebraska and New England, what I should put down. And they said,
And you said, wait.
The Nebraska
Wait,
Patriots?
hold on. The last, the last straw for me was when you said, "What's the abbreviation for New England for the post office?"
and I suddenly had this shrinking moment to realize that this whole challenge in my life is based on my own lack of knowledge or paying attention. And you know
Yeah.
what? And I nailed the states and the presidents and all that stuff. It's just retaining it all is just really, really tough.
Yeah.
There's way too many things going on. So from now on, when I've got the drop down menu on the online charts, and I need somebody in Nebraska, it's easy.
Yeah.
I'm only looking for one thing.
New England.
That's right.
That's right.
Oh, I have to entertain myself. Oh my gosh.
All right, that will, I think, do it for the. We don't have any more.
Oh, and then we got to
calls?
bring producer Doug into
Questions?
this too. He sends a joke out 2 days ago
Oh, yeah.
that I had to have him explain to me today because it's about Star Wars.
That was, and I said, I think that was a fair not getting the joke because it was pretty inside. And I
Well,
did
literally,
say-
Luke was inside.
Right. And then I said to, you left the studio for a minute and you said, when I come back, I want you to explain the joke. And I said to Doug, he's going to totally understand it when it's not that he's totally unaware of it. Once we tell him, he'll
All right,
he'll
so
get it.
Just so people know.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the text, just a harmless text, pops up at 12:26 in the at noontime, I'm guessing you were having lunch and just talking with somebody, and the joke came up. Your joke or your son's joke? All right. So what's the internal temperature of a Star Wars Tan? And then just a little delay.
Tauntaun?
Lukewarm.
Yeah.
And Russ says, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, and I just type back, explain it to me tomorrow.
Yeah. And I knew once we did, you would get it because you would know what the tauntaun was in that scene.
I don't.
Vaguely, right? You remember the...
Are they like camels?
No, those are the...
More like a...
What are the camels? The sand, big things that the...
Kind of a cross between a T-Rex and a llama. Llama.
Like they're
Okay.
a llama. They're a hopping
Long neck?
two-footed... Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two-legged llama.
I need to watch one of them shows again. Just
It's kind of like a T-Rex with fur and a llama face.
What's the sand one? What do they ride?
They look like the thing that killed that guy the other day. The what was that thing?
Bantha.
Musk ox.
Yeah.
Did they make a YouTube video that would be like Star Wars for dummies that I can catch up
Oh,
on?
yeah.
In like,
Absolutely.
In like 20 minutes, I could catch up on it.
Absolutely.
Maybe I could absorb enough to communicate with you guys.
How about you sit down and watch every episode?
No, it's
And
not
then-
going to happen.
It's
It's not going to happen.
as the lone man out in my family of Star Wars fans. Couldn't do it.
No.
Nothing against I
It's-
loved them when I saw them all, but
I'd have other choices. I
I've
think
seen
I would
them all
do.
once, and yeah. Well, I wonder what.
I'm going to find that. So I'm going to
I've
find
seen
a
the first three at least 50 times each. At least.
Sure.
I just need to see
But-
enough so I don't conflate Star Trek and Star Wars for you guys anymore ever again in my life.
I won't go back and
I
won't go back
was
and watch
just
the whole
talking
thing
to a
again.
friend of
It'll-
mine who was a big Star Trek fan, and for Christmas, his mom got him all Star Trek stuff. It was so great. Except he wasn't a Star Trek fan; he was a Star Wars fan, and she was so mad at him for not being. That was it. He just had it. That was the end of that. Just keeping it.
I like it both. All the sci-fi stuff is good for me, but yeah, like I said, I've watched those at least 50 times. Now, if I'm sitting around doing nothing and I'm bored and I'm flipping channels and I go, I may watch like 10 minutes of one of the old ones. I don't think I could sit down and watch another whole. But I'd go back and watch The Mandalorian over again.
Oh, you'd watch them again.
I don't know if I'd sit and watch the whole
If
thing.
you could watch it with somebody and point
with
out
somebody
things
that hadn't seen it, it'd be
then
fun
he would
to
do
watch.
it in a heartbeat.
What if there's a new version of it that they're selling, and you could watch it in 8K with Dolby 7 sound?
So then that water ox or whatever he just said,
The
or
musk ox. The
musk
bantha.
ox, yeah, that could be like really cool.
No, did you hear the thing on the news a couple days ago about this Alaskan state trooper?
No.
He was killed by a musk ox in his front yard.
Oh.
Do you know what one is? What they look like?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I had never heard that term before, so I had to Google it, and I went, that looks like a buffalo.
Front
with-
yard?
Yeah,
Never heard
Where does he live?
He's in Alaska.
I know, but does he live like in
the
edge
country.
Of a park?
Is he in the bush or is he in a?
No, he's in the
I wish
country.
I didn't
but
even joke about that. That's horrible.
They talked about it, but they said it was a freak thing. They just like, wow, but it was they said it was at his home. It was on the news, which you don't know if it's true or not. Chris, you could probably Google it, see exactly where it happened. But yeah, because if he was on duty, I'm sure he probably. But
that's crazy.
It
You got it
is.
up there. I got to see this.
Those weird things happen, but
wow,
they're mean looking. They got those
That
tusks.
might be on my list of things I don't want to get killed by.
Right.
I don't want to see that coming at me and then die.
I didn't know what they were, but they kind of, if you've never seen one, it looks like a buffalo, but the buffalo has tusks on it. It looks like a woolly mammoth kind of thing, but smaller.
He was trying to scare away a group of muskox from near a dog kennel at his home when one of them
No.
attacked.
Bad idea.
No, don't do that. Don't do that with deer
It's easy for you to say now, sure.
either. We were looking at a house a few years ago, and every night I went over there, it had a bunch of does in the backyard. There was like this little herd.
Doe, a deer?
Yeah, a female deer. And they
Okay.
didn't run away. When you walk down the backyard towards the pond, they weren't going away. And I learned later why they weren't going away. They were pretty comfortable being in the city, but there was a big buck nearby. And they're like, we don't worry about this. And they charge you. And luckily, they just charge you enough in this case where they're just like, hey, I'm not happy with you. And you're like, I'm just going to back away.
That's the same way it used to be
now.
when Chris walked into the club when he was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd walk in, people wouldn't
all
want
the
to
does would be charging.
Charging you?
I thought that you were saying they didn't want anything to do with me. I was like, you were right.
Well, if the does were charging the buck.
Oh, man. Could somebody want to come up with a shovel and clean us out at the shop?
Oh, my gosh, man.
We got this cool, after having a
Wait a day, 'cause
four-wheeler
it's
for
gonna-
15 years, we got a salt sand spreader, the bolt-on, a little electric one. It's a couple $100. It's like, this is genius. So we got it.
I just heard he got it.
And it showed up 2 days later from Amazon. And it's a Salt Dog. It's a nice one
No,
from
same
Byers.
brand as
Yeah,
our
really
stainless
nice
steel one.
plastic
It's
with a
mounted on
stainless
our
thing.
truck about ready to break
So
in
we're
half.
like, yeah, so we're going to throw this thing on. And when we go to the day it arrived was the day the four-wheeler broke.
Oh.
It worked all these years with no problem, and all of a sudden they're outside getting ready to move a car with it, and it just goes, shuts off. And we're like, that's weird. What did you do to it? I don't know. It just died. I'm like, I heard it die. What did you do? Well, I wasn't on it. I was like, I know, but what did you do? You weren't touching it. You
So
used it last.
So did we wire something wrong?
No,
with
we
the
didn't.
Salt Dog?
We didn't put it on yet.
Oh.
So it was outside running. They
Sad.
dropped it off. Here's UPS. Boom, we dropped it off, slid it over in the shop. Here you go. We're going to put this on this afternoon. And literally the thing's outside and goes, I don't want that thing. I'm not going to carry that thing around. And it just quit.
It's like your kids getting away when the work.
Yeah,
ready to
so
go.
we're testing this, that, and the other, and we break it down to, okay, it's got a bad CDI. Why does that one model of this Suzuki have to have a $500 CDI unit when all the other Suzuki models are like $38 to $90 on Amazon, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Honda, they're all cheap, and this one, $500 used. I'm like, great.
I find if you just get like a coffee can and put the salt in it and then get another cup, you can just kind of spread it manually.
That's perfect. We use the fertilizer spreader, we walk behind it, but it's just once it comes, we did a really nice job cleaning up after the last snowstorm so that it wouldn't keep building up, because every year you just get corners and you can keep it clean around the building, but it's, and we're going to do this right. Oh, no. And then the other truck's about ready to break in half. But that thing went through a lot of salt.
Yeah, we need an update. Jay and I just were talking about that. We got to update the sanding truck. We got to find something a little more modern. Get a 3/4 ton HD Chevy or something. And
Well, you got that F-150 out there that's so hit in the back, you could just pull the box off of that. No, don't do that.
No.
That truck's worth way more than that.
no,
But
well,
you can get
we need a 3/4 ton. That's a lot of weight.
that is a 3/4 ton.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different truck.
No, the salt truck. Your salt truck is a 3/4
No,
ton.
no. The one we have is.
Yeah, you need another
Anything
3/4
new we
or
get's
1
gotta
ton.
be a 3/4 or 1 ton.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff. A lot of people out there fighting with snow removal and stuff. We hope everybody's. We're getting ready to come into Christmas holidays. You're going to start doing some traveling, maybe this week or next week. Be safe out there. Like we said, the roads. This weather pattern is going to hit us hard all across the country, from tornadoes down south. We're sorry for the stuff you guys are going through in our market areas down there with the tornadoes and stuff. Some of them were directly hit pretty hard, and then you get the snow north. This is the same pattern we had last year that moved through just a week after Christmas. Now it's coming early this year. Be careful. Look at those tires before you get out on the road, and just slow it down. Take some extra time and turn that bad weather into maybe some enjoyment. If you know it's going to be a bad weather, just plan it out and stop at some hotels along the way and have fun with the family, and just leave a day early.
I think if your four-wheeler's going to crap out, just enjoy it while you can, right? That's what we learned in this. And then, right? All right. We ready?
I'm ready. Yeah, I know you guys are ready. You guys
We're
probably
ready.
should get going.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching, listening to the Under the Hood Show.